Darrell Sanders, and I'm here today with Jesse Roberts, who's an employee at LifeShare of the Carolinas, doing a cross-cultural counseling video for a class at Charlotte Christian College and Theological Seminary. Jesse, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move on into our session.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 26 years old. I'm originally from a really small town called Rutherfordton, North Carolina, out toward Asheville, toward the mountains. I started working for LifeShare almost, well, I guess it'll be 3 years this coming January, and have really enjoyed that, and just moved here to Charlotte back in October after finishing grad school.
Okay.
Yeah.
What exactly do you do for LifeShare?
So with LifeShare, I do family support, and that involves working with the families of potential organ donors and organ tissue donors in our hospitals. And we cover 46 hospitals across the western part of the state. So I work with the families there, provide emotional support, meet their basic needs while they're at the hospital, and help them navigate the hospital, connect them with resources inside and outside of the hospital, and have conversations about organ donation and end-of-life issues when we get to that point. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And in addition to that, I do the aftercare piece as well, which is working with the families post-donation and following up with them, making sure they have their needs met as well.
Okay, is there counseling involved with the job?
There is.
To what extent?
So when we're in the hospitals, a lot of times we take on kind of a counseling role. You know, a lot of active listening to people's stories and providing emotional support for them.
Okay.
And so they've obviously experienced some traumatic type things, and so being able to help them through those emotional moments.
Okay.
And additionally, with the aftercare piece, that's another thing that we're beginning to add in here with LifeShare is a counseling component with our donor families post-donation.
Okay. Good. Now, as we get ready to go into this piece, is there any particular issue, whether it be job, whether it be career or personal, that's, I'm not gonna say bothering you, but might be disturbing you at this time that you might need to, convey your thoughts?
Sure.
Okay.
I've been having some roommate issues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which can be really interesting.
Okay.
I just moved here in October, and about the time that I was moving here, a friend of mine that I had known for I guess about a year or so was also looking for a place, and so worked out, and we ended up signing a lease at an apartment complex nearby. And you really get to know somebody when you live with them.
Okay. Did you know this person before you moved in with?
I did, yeah. I had known him for about a year, and yeah, good guy, nice person, but has been through a lot, and doesn't exactly have the best coping skills.
Okay.
And so it's been really interesting to have conversations with him, and he's very. I was sharing with a friend of mine the other day. My roommate is very emotionally explosive.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it can be really interesting because you never know quite what's going to set him off.
Okay. How old is your roommate?
How old? He is actually older than I am. Yeah, so I'm 26 and he's 30. So.
Okay. What causes the emotional outburst?
That's a wonderful question. It's I mean, he's gotten upset with me when I didn't invite him to do certain things with friends of mine, and felt excluded, and these weren't even people that he knew, and yeah, it just became really irate, irrationally so.
Wow.
And so it's been really interesting because I had a very honest conversation with him the other day. I said, I love being your friend, and to me that's priority number one, but being your roommate is a real challenge right now. And so I almost feel that I'm on the brink of having to choose, do I want to be your friend or your roommate? And that's a tough place to be.
How did he handle that?
Those are hard words for him to hear, because the way that he communicates when he's upset or angry is a part of the way that he's always communicated. And so he doesn't see it as an issue yet. Irate confrontation and things through text messages and name calling, those things are not a part of my culture.
Okay.
Not how I deal with things.
Okay.
So it's been really interesting.
So that's how he seems to deal with, for lack of a better word, confrontation.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Right, and I'm very much a, hey, let's sit down and chat and, you know, kind of talk through this and figure out how, you know, where to go from here. First of all, what the issue is, how we can work through it, and then where to go from there. But he's, yeah, he loves to send a hateful text message.
Have you been able to sit down and chat with him and talk with him and try to, you know, walk your way through?
I have, and one night he was texting me, and just, again, very irrational, and I said, you know, I'm not comfortable texting about these things, like, I would like to have a face-to-face conversation. Right. And the response that I got was, well, you're not here right now, so of course I'm texting you about it.
Wow.
Didn't make a lot of sense to me.
So, once you were able to be face-to-face, was he willing to sit down face-to-face?
He was willing to sit down, but any issue that I mentioned was deflected, and it was immediately placed onto me as my fault. The fact that I was inconsiderate and not inviting him to hang out with my friends and I was brought up, and I said, well, you know, I'm not gonna invite you to do everything, like, while we're roommates and we're good friends, like, we have different circles of friends, and, you know, these are college people, and we're gonna be reminiscing about college and that type of thing, so, you know, I feel like it would be more uncomfortable. He's very introverted as well. Okay. And so I didn't want to put him in an awkward situation.
Has he ever invited you out with any of his friends?
From time to time, and I reciprocate that from time to time as well if it's a situation I feel that he would be able to blend into and would be comfortable with, but in this particular situation, these are people that he had never met, and with him being introverted, I felt like it would be more uncomfortable for him than anything.
And I can see your point. I can see what you're saying, because in a way you're shielding him from unnecessary comment, unnecessary remarks.
Right.
But I guess he looks at it as you shunning him, you know, but he doesn't look at it from the angle you're looking at, because me personally, I would probably be uncomfortable around people I didn't know.
Sure, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, it's just been a very interesting journey. Got a few more months. The lease will be up in October, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Oh, have you, has that been discussed, you know, the lease being up in October? Have y'all sat down and discussed what's gonna happen as of that date, or?
No, I don't think we're close enough to that. I feel like that would be another explosive moment, and I'm not prepared for that until I absolutely have to be.
Right.
So I'm kind of coasting along right now.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Do you think it would be something that he would bring up?
Maybe. I don't know. You know, it's one of those situations where if it's not working out for me as his roommate, it's probably not working out for him either.
Right.
So, you know, I don't think it'll be the worst possible conversation, but I think it could be very interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I think it could be very interesting.
Right. Interesting as in what way?
I think it could go a couple of different ways. I think he could be either really upset and really frustrated and angry, or he could potentially be almost relieved that I would feel the same way that he would. So, given his background and some of the things that I do know about it, the way that he grew up and the environment that he grew up in, I think a lot of his issues have to do with abandonment, loss, grief. I mean, it actually kind of fits right into your class, because his brother died when he was really young, and his mom just became very, very, very emotionally irrational as well. And so, from the stories that I've heard, I see a lot of similarities, a lot of parallels there between he and his mother.
Right.
But that's not something that I'm willing to bring to his attention.
So do you think the loss of his brother, do you think there was a proper grieving process, or?
I don't know about proper grieving. I would rather say, rather than improper grieving, probably not the healthiest grieving. I have discovered recently, also tends to cope with alcohol, and yeah, that's been another discovery for me. You know, incessantly, and so it's been a challenge.
What have you, considering your experience, you know, academically and professionally, have you thought about maybe attacking it from that angle?
I have considered, and this is a conversation that I had with him. I shared with him one day. I said, his name's Mike. I said, Mike, I really think going to counseling would be a very beneficial thing for you. I said, I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to be in counseling because we all have stuff that we need to deal with.
Okay.
And he was able to hear that and listen to it, and he accepted that. And I said, I think it could really benefit you to go back and revisit some of the things that you've experienced and look at new ways to cope with those things. Because, you know, the way that you're coping with them now is not healthy. You know, it's only going to lead you down a negative path. And so he was receptive to those things, yet hasn't sought that yet.
Okay. Has he given any reason why? I mean, he's receptive, but has he given any reason why he hasn't sought?
From a very logistical and pragmatic standpoint, I think a lot of it has to do with his schedule because he's very busy with work.
Okay.
And so, I mean, he a lot of times will not get home until late.
Okay.
And so I know that, but I guess for me, if getting to a better place emotionally were a priority, I would probably make time for those things.
Right.
So I also think his staying so busy is probably also a coping strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you discussed any potential counselors with him?
I don't know a ton here in the Charlotte area.
Right.
And that's another thing that I had to do. I was very honest with him. I said, you know, I'm talking to you as your friend.
Right.
I can't be your therapist too.
Okay.
And I very much defined that boundary because I think there were times that he expected me to fall into that role.
Okay.
And when you get into those dual relationships, especially when you're rooming with somebody, it can be a really interesting situation.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't want to blur those lines there.
Okay. So you think he could have been receptive to you being his therapist, but you...
Well, and when I say that, I don't mean technically, but like he would share some. I could tell that there were times that he would go into a mode of almost dependency, and expecting me to give him the answers to everything. So I think also, I mean, I believe that his perspective before the therapist is probably a little skewed too.
Wow. Wow.
Didn't know what I was walking into.
What's his occupation?
He's actually the Chief Advancement Officer for an organization here in Charlotte that works with the victims of domestic violence.
Okay. Okay.
And they have a couple of shelters and things in the area.
Okay.
Great guy, you know, but just has a lot of struggles. Not to say that I don't too, but
Right.
choose to deal with mine a little differently.
Does he have a lot of friends?
This was a conversation that we had as well. He kind of floats between groups and doesn't ever really attach himself necessarily.
Okay.
There are a couple of people that he's really close to, and the rest are just kind of surface level friends.
Okay.
And so I think that's another part of the situation is the fact that I'm not one of those surface level friends. I'm one of the types of people that he can confide in and share things with and truly be himself around.
Right.
But that's
Right.
been a challenge.
How's his relationship with his family?
His relationship with his mom is not good at all. His relationship with his dad is very strong. I mean, but that's another thing that has really interested me, and I've not pointed this out, but his dad is, you know, crazy about him, just absolutely loves him and would do anything in the world that he could for him. And he's so distraught by the fact that his relationship with his mom is not good, but he doesn't take advantage of the relationship that his dad wants to have with him.
Any particular reason why?
No, he's like, you know, he considers them to be relatively close, but, you know, he'll say, oh, I've not talked to my dad in a couple of weeks, or, you know, whatever, and I'm scratching my head going, my definition of close is very different.
Right.
And so, but, you know, since his brother died, his dad really wants to invest in the relationship with him because it's his only living child now.
Is his dad here?
Yeah, he's in the Charlotte area.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is his mom in the area?
Yeah, I mean, they're both probably 30 to 45 minutes away, but
Okay.
yeah, so they're right outside of Charlotte.
So I take the mom and the dad together?
They're not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You think that weighs heavily on him?
I think it does. His mom had an affair on his dad, and I think there's a lot of anger, unresolved anger there, because because his dad does love him and care about him so much, and he's very close with him.
Right.
And so I think there's still some anger there toward his mom
Okay.
as well.
So that's probably an issue, that could be an issue that could just like spill over into what you having to deal with in reference to him as well.
Yeah. I think I see, it's like I said, I see a lot of parallels there between the abandonment and the sense of abandonment. His brother didn't abandon him. It wasn't a choice. His brother had ALS and died. And so, but I think he perceives that as a sense of abandonment, and the way that his mom has kind of turned on him. And she, in one of her fits of anger, told him that she wished it would have been him instead of his brother.
Wow.
And so he's got a lot of really heavy stuff going on there.
Yeah, so I can really see where that could kind of, affect, y'all relationship. So he does have a lot of unresolved issues.
Right. Definitely.
And until he gets those issues resolved, he's probably gonna have difficulty with anybody, whether he's a friend or roommate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the, again, kind of the line that I'm on right now is,
Right.
While we're roommates, how close do I want to be to him as his friend?
Right.
Because it's not healthy for me, in the job that I'm in,
Right.
when I go home, I want it to be a safe, calm environment where I can hang out and watch TV
Right.
or whatever without conflict or frustration. And
Right.
sometimes I walk into the apartment and I'm just so uncomfortable, so I'll just go to my room and close my door, and that's my safe place. So it's just been really interesting.
Yeah. And being uncomfortable, this is when he's there.
Yeah, I'll walk in and I'll never quite be sure what kind of mood he's gonna be in until I speak to him, and then I can kind of gauge, and I'm like, I'm gonna just keep my distance tonight. Yeah.
Does he eventually come around? Or
It depends. Sometimes it'll take him a couple of days, and I see some patterns there. I've thought that maybe there's some bipolar disorder in there. So I've seen some patterns that I've noticed, and so I can respect and honor his space and kind of know when things are going to be okay and when I just need to take a back seat. And yeah.
So your profession and your academic background, in a sense, is kind of helping you deal with this matter.
It has, yeah. When he'll like verbally attack me or something through a text message, I flip a little switch, and that's what I was sharing with one of my friends the other day. I said, have this little internal switch, and if I don't go into the full-fledged mode of client counselor with him, but I will flip on my counselor hat. I'll flip that switch and almost approach it from that perspective,
Okay.
from an outside perspective rather than an individual perspective or an interpersonal. So I'll kind of step outside of the situation mentally, and I can usually confront it a little bit more easily and with a little more maturity, because a friend of mine shared with me, she said that she has a friend that likes to become very immature in arguments. She said, and when there become two children in the argument, I know I need to walk away.
Wow.
And that was very profound for me. And one night I even shared that with him in a text message. I said, I feel like we're two middle schoolers right now. I'll chat with you when we are both in a better place. And so.
How did he receive that?
He didn't receive that well at all, and then verbally attacked me again. And that's the point where I just turned my phone off.
Right. It seemed like he would have, to me, it seemed like he would have received it because you said we.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't saying you, and I'm very intentional about that.
Right.
I use I statements. I feel or I think, not you this or you that. I'm very intentional about that.
And that still doesn't register with him. So you're doing this from the standpoint that he can't say you really quote unquote picking on him.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there's a way for him to spin it around in that way.
Right.
And I am very sensitive to the fact that he's been through a lot, and I get that, and I see it, and it makes sense to me. And I hate that for him.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm also the persuasion that at some point, and this is what I tell some of my clients from time to time, I'm like, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be frustrated, it's okay to have questions, it's okay to, just have a difficult time, the key is not to stay there.
Right.
Is not to live in that for the rest of your life, to find a way to move forward. And I don't think he's found that way yet.
How long has it been since he lost his brother?
He lost his brother in 2006,
Wow. Wow.
9 years ago.
So you think he's still kind of battling?
I think he is. I think he's still having a very difficult time with that.
Who's older? Was that brother older?
Brother was older, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Did the brother have children or wife?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so he has no connection to him anymore.
Wow.
It's very unfortunate.
How are the parents handling it? Do you know how the parents are handling it?
I honestly don't. I don't know. I think his dad deals with it a lot more, with a lot more stability and a lot more intention than his mom does. I think she is still really struggling and having a difficult time.
Have you met the parents?
I've not.
Okay.
Yeah, I've not met his parents. I just hear about him from his perspective. So, yeah.
Do you encourage him to have, relationships with his parents?
I do, especially with his dad,
Okay.
and given the fact that I lost both my parents when I was really young, I value those relationships, and I'm very quick to say, spend more time with your dad.
Okay.
Call your dad,
Okay.
more frequently, and things. As your friend, I don't want you to have regrets. As somebody that cares about you, and given the work that we do here with LifeShare, you never know where you're going to be walking into, and so we're frequently reminded of our mortality.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's something that's always on my mind, is letting people know you love them, and spending time with them and things, and that way you don't have regrets when when tomorrow doesn't come.
Right. Okay. Okay, Justin, this has been a pleasure.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot. You've helped me, and I hope things
Thank
get
you.
better with them.
It felt good to just get some of that out, so I
Yeah.
appreciate you listening.
And I understand, and sometimes it does pay just to get it off your chest. I've learned from experience. A lot of times you don't need people to say anything, you just need them to listen.
Right, exactly.
And I hope, your roommate learns that you don't have his best interest at heart.
Well, and that's something I have to remind myself of, is, that I genuinely do care, and I don't want to be one of those people that creates a sense of abandonment, and I don't want him to feel that way. I'm trying to figure out a healthy way to navigate that friendship, so,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Thanks for listening, dude.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Jesse.
Yeah,
Much appreciated.
Absolutely.
We'll do this again sometime.
yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. She's not heard all my crazy roommate stories.